I was working as a bike messenger. My rent was $250. My band practiced every night. We played on the weekends. Life was good,
right? Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Elation podcast today, where we enjoy exhilarating euphoria through creation and collaboration. Today, we are with Melissa and Kirk O'Brien. How are you?
Great.
It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
I'm glad to have you guys here. I was lucky enough to participate in NOLA MusiCon. Was it just a few months ago?
October.
Right? Yeah, October.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved it. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what MusiCon is?
Well, thanks for having us. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. It's glad to be back here. I love this space so much. You've done a great job here. But
Thank you. Well, I noticed your shirt.
Yeah, I'm repping hard today. You got it. Anyway, MusiCon is artist-focused music conference that we do for 3 days in October, right before Halloween. We have years of background doing that kind of thing. Melissa ran the music conference at South by Southwest for several years. I was involved in the media production and tech production over there as well. So we wanted to bring an artist-focused conference to the New Orleans area to benefit the people here, and also to bring in the industry from the outside to come look at New Orleans and realize this is a great place to do business in the music industry, and hopefully get a few people to, set up shop and give the people here a little bit more opportunities as well.
Right. Well, so you guys from here?
Yeah, I grew up here on the North Shore.
Okay.
Went to St. Paul's, went to LSU.
The funny thing is I went to St. Paul's on Canal Boulevard for grade school.
Okay.
And every time I say St. Paul's, I go, were you a bad kid? Every time.
Yes. Yeah. We had that rep hilariously.
That's funny.
And to be honest, I was a bad kid.
Yeah.
But
no, I heard it was a great school.
It's great marching band always. Strong music program.
Right.
Like most of the schools in the area. And I grew up. Got my first guitar when I was 13. Started playing rock music. Thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And lived in New Orleans a bit. Lived in the Marigny before it was the Marigny. And then in the mid-90s, moved to Austin to play music. But
so music is what brought you to Austin?
Yeah. After, playing in Baton Rouge and even in Lafayette and New Orleans for a while.
What about you, Melissa?
So I grew up in Houston, in Bel Air, and I moved to Austin the day after I graduated from high school.
Oh, wow.
And became, involved in the music scene there at the time was, how would I say it? Sorry.
Pretty DIY.
No. It was very DIY. No.
Okay.
It was great. It was really collaborative. Like all the bands were friends with each other, and they'd go to each other's shows.
Almost incestuous. Yes. Everybody
absolutely.
played in different bands together.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
So
it happens a lot here too.
In most music scenes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So you guys met out there?
So we did, yeah. So
we met at work.
And I moved to Austin in 1985. So, that was a very college rock kind of scene, and got involved with South by. Had friends that work there, so I started volunteering in 1996, and then started working there.
South by Southwest is great. I've been there a few times. I've done it a few times with some music artists, and with a couple film people. It's always been great. My understanding, though, the music side is tapered down a little bit over there, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. But I see that as an opportunity for us, actually, here.
Absolutely.
I think over the years, they've kind of moved from being a music conference. And we saw that when we were still there. They were starting to converge programming.
Well, tech was such a big part of its boom in the early teens. And even, hilarious, and shout out to the film festival, Claudette. has done an amazing job on the film side. If you go now, that's what gets a lot of the press and a lot of the accolades.
And her predecessor.
And her predecessor,
Janet,
yeah. But even then, I worked at South by from 08 to 16, and in the 08 to 10, 12, film was just trying to get its legs back under it again.
Right.
After the indie boom of the 90s and early aughts, and they've done a great job. They found that market for them, and everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's still a music industry. There's still these discussions to be had and these connections to be made.
It's definitely changing a lot. We're in a big shift. I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in a bigger shift than when Napster came in and screwed us all up, because I feel like there's really a sense of how to get it back right now.
Right.
So there's going to be lots of things thrown on the wall that we're all going to have to try before we decide one works.
Yeah. Well, I think there's multiple challenges, right? I mean, when downloading was a thing, that was the one big challenge that was facing everybody. But now it's streaming royalties versus AI versus your rights management worldwide. There's a lot of challenges facing
record labels becoming marketing companies.
Exactly.
And,
360 deals.
365 deals. No one doing artist development. Like, there's a lot of things that are like the puzzles. There's a lot of missing pieces on the board.
Yeah.
As a whole.
Without a doubt. I mean, when I was coming up as a musician, the artists that I admired, and I'm talking even on the punk rock DIY level, to me, they were aliens.
Right.
They came from another planet. The best I could hope to do was maybe play in a terrible cover band doing awful versions of their songs, maybe. And I did slightly better than that. But, that felt like an enormous gulf to try to jump. And I can only imagine what a teenager sitting in their room right now is thinking when they listen to some songs and they have their favorite artist and they're like, well, how do I get to that?
Right.
Because it seems even worse and less accessible than it did back then. I mean,
because the artist is asked to do more.
Absolutely.
The artist is asked, the reason this place has so many pieces to it is because it's everything an artist has to be. You have to have 4 or 5 different mindsets.
Right.
You have to be your own manager nowadays. You have to be your own videographer. You have to be your own content creator. You have to be your own artist, and a lot of times you have to be your own producer and engineer too. So, it's...
And not everybody is all those things.
No.
I can think of several artists that I know that are unbelievable, that could stack up to any big artists in their genre right now, and they have 5 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Right.
And the songs are there. Even the production is pretty good. The songs are there, but they are the ones I'm thinking of are complete artists. And the idea of marketing and business and all of these other things are completely foreign to them, and also they don't want to do it.
They don't want to do it. No, they've put in their 10,000 hours on the artist side.
100%.
So, and that's where it takes a team, and people like, you guys who start MusiCon, it takes educators and people to get involved and do things,
Right. And that's a drum I bang all the time, is that you can come, you can find management, you can find distribution, you can find legal advice, you can find rights management advice. All of these things are going to play in. So whatever your need is at that time, I need, international booking, or I need mastering, or I need this. You can go talk to the best professionals in the business that come and pick their brain, maybe make some contacts, and really get a leg up on what where you need to be.
Yeah, well, and there's not a lot of chances to do that down here.
Right.
There really isn't. There's no label building to walk into. There's no publicist. There's no at least on the mainstream level, there's that information isn't readily available. So to have an event or a place that they can go to learn that and to get involved and to learn who to talk to and ask and reach out for. Those are very important things. What would you think your favorite segment was this year in October? Who do you think was the biggest one?
Just on a personal level, we had some, because I live in both the film and music world. We have a production company that does filming, and oh God, I'm blanking on his name. The composer that did the soundtracks.
Oh, Carlos Rafael Rivera.
Thank you.
He did Queen's Gambit.
Yes.
And
but he did, and I was in the middle of working.
Right.
Yeah.
So his panel got started, and I knew about him, and I started listening in and having him describe how he scores the films that he works on. It was such an inventive and original idea of he'd literally watch the movie and sit there and go, dun, 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 or whatever.
Right.
And then write music around it. And I was like, oh, no duh. Like,
yeah.
And he showed examples of it in the room, and I kept running back in between things I was doing to like poke my head in and like, okay, now what? And got to listen to him a little bit afterwards, talking to some other people. But that, on a personal level, that was really cool for me just to hear. It was a kind of a light bulb moment.
The background stuff in film is definitely very intriguing.
Yeah.
How they do all that stuff. We had a guy on the podcast that helped with the sound engineering of the arrows in Braveheart.
Oh, neat.
And he was telling us about the process, and listening to guys like that, which come to events like yours to talk, but listening to those things really, I think, push your head a little further in how things are made and what can be possible.
Yeah.
Because film, I think, pushes every boundary.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Especially for audio side. Nobody really even pays attention to it. But everything is scrambled eggs made with aluminum foil, like the sound, whatever it may be. It's a boundary pushed and all kinds of stuff.
For sure.
What would you think next year would be a main goal for MusiCon if you were to try to step up things? What would be something that you're reaching for?
Well, to grow our audience, for one.
Right.
And to get, I guess, more people from out of town, from around the country to attend.
More artists.
More art and more art. Yeah,
specifically.
more artists.
And really kind of evangelizing and getting the word out to the artists that there's a real benefit for them, to making those connections and getting that information.
Right.
I always think about, playing in a crappy little punk band, and I had a very F you attitude about everything, and
don't we all as artists?
Of course, yeah. I was gonna be this musician, and I didn't need to know about anything. And screw you, man. And an old guy who was like 28,
right,
explained to me one time. He's like, "Look, you're taking money for this. Like, you just got paid $5 or whatever it is. So you're in business,
right."
Now, you can be a crappy businessman or you can be a good one, but you're in business, and it's your choice which one you're going to be.
Right.
And I was like, oh,
yeah.
I guess I'm not not that rebellious or whatever.
Funny. Yeah, my grandfather used to say, not making a decision is a decision.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you have to make a decision.
And many times other people will make that decision for you.
Right.
Especially in the music space.
Right. So how do you feel the differences between Austin and New Orleans is right now? What do you think the differences in the music scene?
Well, let's go way back. So when I first got there, and I think Melissa has kind of mentioned this too, it was very in Austin. There were bands everywhere. I literally did not know anybody in my age group, early 20s, that was not in multiple bands.
Right.
There was an east side of town, what up Cameron Road, that we would drive around on the weekends with our windows rolled down to find out where the house parties were that had bands that we knew were playing. You just roll down your window, drive around, listen for it. Oh, they're over here. You pull up. And these were big bands. Some of them were signed bands
playing
house parties.
That's awesome.
You know, and so to me, it was just like being in a candy store.
Right.
Like everybody you met was of the same creative mind. It was very exciting. It felt like anything was possible. I mean, I was working as a bike messenger. My rent was $250. My band practiced every night. We played on the weekends. Life was good,
right? You know?
Yeah. and that experience was for many, many people in Austin at the time. You know, the double-edged sword of success is with the tech explosion and transformation of Austin and the economy booming so hard that you can't have that experience in Austin anymore.
Right.
And, you know, we were just there for South by, and the skyline has changed so much. The clubs that we used to go to are all gone. It has a cost.
Money brings in corporations, and
it does, yeah.
And it pushes at least there, it pushes a lot of the creative community out because they can't afford to live there anymore.
Right.
And they keep going further and further and further out.
Yeah, well, no, it makes sense. I mean,
and that's the reason people moved there in the first place, was because how cool it was. Right. So
And the other hilarious part was going there and seeing the first time I saw the bumper sticker that said "Keep Austin Weird."
Right.
And I was like, I just moved from New Orleans. Like,
this is not that weird.
This isn't even kind of weird, you know. And I think New Orleans retains that unique flavor that it's always had as throughout my life, without a doubt. And any artist that comes through, any of the musicians that I know, any of the people in the music industry are like, there is no place like this.
No, but there's a double-edged sword to it, because as much as we have kept the creatives, we haven't transitioned into the business aspect.
Yeah.
And that culture has never been cultivated here. And you know, unfortunately, big artists will come down here and get some great culture and some great feeling and energy to create that, but they're going to leave to go do something professional on their side. So it's really a double-edged sword, because I call it, we're the pirate city. I mean, we are we literally are pirates to that big FU notion that we all felt and all have in us. You know, that's what New Orleans is, and that's why it's the Big Easy. We come down here to do your sins and leave happy. You know.
Yeah.
But if we don't create that next step for our creatives, in the end, they're going to end up as great musicians, but no path to do, to progress in.
Right. And that's a lot of the feedback that we get locally. I mean, I can think of, I've been playing guitar again for decades. The guys around here that play regularly out, I don't even want to be in the same room with them when I'm playing. They are amazing musicians across the board, but a lot of them get trapped in the gig mentality or the gig scene. And I get it. They have to earn that money, and that's what they've got to do right now. But they're playing 2 sets a night, 4 nights a week, and they're hustling from this thing to that thing.
Right.
And they the feedback I get from them is that they feel very broken down and worn out from that over the time, because where does that progress?
Right.
Just to the next gig. And I wouldn't want that for them. There should be more opportunities, and there's no reason there couldn't be here.
Yeah, well, and guys like George Porter Jr., who was here for a music video, and he was basically telling a story saying that he doesn't stop playing. One reason is he doesn't want arthritis to kick in, so he just keeps playing anything he can do. But also, he'll do one gig for $5,000, and then the next gig he'll do for $100. He goes, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm doing it because I'm playing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought to myself, it's a great mindset, but you're also devaluing yourself.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the business mindset, if you get $5,000 once, you should get $5,000 every time you You know, you got to put yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't just have this mindset of willy-nilly, I'm just going to play whatever I can make money
But I
on.
think people take. I think people on the outside will take advantage of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And then
absolutely.
they're like, oh, well, you played here for this, and you should play that. We want to just pay you $100.
Well, and that's why you devalue yourself.
Right.
Once you do it low cost, word gets around.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
That's your worth.
That's your worth. You know.
Yeah. And we've been involved with producing some other little festivals and things from people that the money didn't have music background, let's say.
Right.
And they go like, why are we paying these people this? And you go, well, you're not paying them for an hour and a half on a Saturday night. You're paying them for the last 40 years that they mastered their craft, wrote those songs, and put in the work.
Right.
That's what you're paying for.
100%.
You know, and if they're lawyers or dentists or whatever, they kind of go, oh, okay.
Well, in the end, we all enjoy music. It all brings us elation. So
Yes, but it's such an expectation, right? You know, especially around here, like New Orleans. To me, New Orleans is the music city.
Absolutely.
This is where all music in North America started.
I do not disagree
Right
with you.
here.
Which is why I do not understand why we don't have our own Grammy chapter. But
Well, that's a whole nother story.
I don't understand why we don't XYZ.
I mean,
There's a long laundry list.
Memphis
there,
is
right?
a long way away from here. Why are we in the Memphis chapter?
No,
I don't know. Maybe Reed can help me.
That's a question for Reed.
But who's coming on next month? So I'm gonna ask him that question. But it makes no sense to me. But those are structure things that would help this city progress to the next step.
Yeah. And, I think if we could get into the mindset of thinking now is a good time for this, because yes, the industry is changing. Yes, there are more challenges than ever, but the way the market works and technology works now too, there's more opportunities. And we could actually jump in and, you don't have to talk $1 billion music company into moving over here.
Right.
But you can talk to a couple of little startups, into doing some music services startups in the area. You can talk to those companies into doing satellite offices here.
Right.
You can, there are ways to, take advantage of the situation that we live in
Well, and I think if labels did artist development, they would be here in a second.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
They would be Atlantic South. They would be Warner South. They would be all these, because they have to cultivate. It's like having a football team and cultivating the youth to go to the college level. Like there's, John Curtis does it best than anybody in the state. They'll cultivate almost anybody they play to has a chance to go to college. And
Absolutely.
it should be thought of in that same way.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I just don't. Everybody wants everything so instantaneous now. If you're not interested on a video in the first 10 seconds or a song, the first 15, people are out. Their attention spans are so short. And I think, when we were growing up, artists had a chance to develop. They'd put out a record and then another one wouldn't come out for maybe another year. But but in between, you followed that artist. They built audiences.
It was a story.
It was a story, and you also, of course, you were. I feel like you were more invested because you bought the record, and there might be a song or two on it that you didn't like, but you listened to the whole thing anyway because you didn't want to get up and change it. But you'd read, you'd look at the album cover, you'd read the back, you'd read the liner notes, and that. It was an experience, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
No, thankfully, and I just I'm working with a band now called More October, and they're a brand new band here in town. They're like a emo Deftones, so they're kind of hard rock.
Okay.
But what I like about the scene is. They evidently cassette tapes are big in the hard rock scene right now. And they're bringing physicals back. And what I like about bands is if you do a good album, you can work off that album for a while.
Yeah.
And talking about attention spans, I think it's almost counterintuitive to release too much music as a band, because I think you have to let time in that story now. It's you used to push a single for 18 months. Now you're dropping a single every month.
Right.
But I think if you put out the proper album with real tracks and real music, you should push that album for at least a year, tour on that album, do things with that album before you put out any other music.
Right.
Because I think it distracts. I think bands you really should focus on the push. You know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think, a reflection of the modern times we live in, are that all the genres have fractured up so much, but there are passionate audiences within those subgenres and little groups. And if you can figure out, how to market to them, you're golden.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing in hard rock or Americana or hip hop or whatever.
Right.
You find your audience. And
I think the audience demands different things too.
100%.
Like, your hip hop, I think they demand, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I think bands can still pull back and focus on a project and push it properly and tell the story and do the interviews and continue telling the story until it catches on. You know, and I think it's healthy for the industry if we can start seeing more bands. And honestly, I think country started it. When now we've gotten back into the country role, which has been the last, year and a half, 2 years, it's been the number one genre. But what comes after country? It's rock.
Sure.
Every time, right?
Yeah.
Country brings us back into the live performances, and then people want energy afterwards, because country's more like pop rock now.
Yes, without a doubt.
And
I mean, that speaks to a big consideration that everybody has right now of what is going to happen with AI.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that they cannot replicate
That's what I was
is live band experience.
100%. And I mean, people want that genuine thing.
Right.
When you're passionate about an artist, I mean, when we were growing up, part of the thing that Melissa was talking about is you flew a flag of who you were.
Right.
If you had a black flag sticker on the back of your car, or you spray painted it on the back of your truck or whatever, that meant something to everybody else around you, right? Or a Depeche Mode poster on your wall or whatever it was.
Right.
And those flags aren't flown as much now because, I don't know, just with my son sees no difference between the electronic acts that he listens to the pop rock, to the, super sad indie rock stuff.
Right.
Well, like it's all one thing to him, which is cool. I mean, it's totally fine. But, I do think, again, coming back to the audience and tapping into that is the path forward to longevity in these days.
Well,
it
changed. I saw ZZ Top when I was 10 years old with my mom and my stepdad, and it changed my life. Like, like it was just watching them perform, and some great, crazy musicians, like you're watching, you're like, man, that's awesome,
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like the phone digital experience does not give you that same attachment to things. So if I go and see a band, I mean, like Linkin Park, got rest in peace to Chester, but I saw him 8 times.
Right.
I traveled around the country to go see him.
Yep.
And I wanted to see him in LA, so I flew to LA. Those are connections, and I think sometimes too bands get too caught up in there's 600 million people in the US and there's billions of people in the world. They get so thought about, I got to reach this, when they forget about the first 100 people that can pay you.
Yeah.
100 real fans will make you more money than 100,000 fake fans that are just streaming digitally.
Yeah. I mean, I still think that the old model applies and we used to do this, we used to tell other bands to do this. I still tell bands to do this. You get the compass, you put it on a map, you draw 500 miles, that's your distance.
Right.
Find every venue that you can play within that 500 miles, because
Right.
that's about a day's drive, and usually you can break it up. You know, if you can start plugging in and hitting audiences in that radius,
Yeah.
then you're good to go for everywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough distribution digitally for the word to get out, but that experience of, I mean, showing up and playing is the best homework you can do.
100%. Well, and I tell artists, go back to the trunk sale. So
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah, yeah.
Sell a
Yeah.
hat with your music. Like,
Right.
but you know, don't give away your music. Grab something physical with
Right.
it and connect with somebody locally. Go back to the trunk sale. You'll make more money doing that than you will worrying about streams and billions of people online.
Well, that was to go way back, that's the classic Joan Jett story, is that after the Runaways, she recorded an album and no record label wanted to touch her. And she and her manager drove around in a sedan with cassettes in the trunk,
Right.
and would sell cassettes out of the back of the truck or back of the sedan. And later, after that album was selling in local pockets, you know, whoever was it, Capitol or somebody picked it up. Anyway, huge record,
Right.
giant record. So, you know, you can rattle off all these gigantic artists from back in the day that got rejected over and over and over. And the one thing that continues through it all is they didn't quit. They kept going out and playing.
Yep.
And they found their voice and their audience.
And their physical pockets, you know.
Their physical pockets.
Yeah. So I'm still waiting on music to find that, get back to a physical product somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and it will never truly be a CD again or whatever.
Yeah.
It will be a digital, but somehow we have to maybe blend advertising with it and get like Budweiser to sell a 12-pack with a code in it that only has that album in it. So then now you're participating in the rev share of a physical product.
Right.
And, you know, then it's trackable. You know,
Sure.
stuff like that. I feel like we can still create that experience of a physical thing. And, you know, then also I thought was it not blockchain, but when the EFTs, right? I thought that was going to help, but it just kind of fell off quick.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do it. You know, I know several artists that do tours where you'll buy the ticket and it gets you a vinyl copy,
Right.
something like that, or
Right.
you know, T-shirts or whatever, or you buy the vinyl and it gets you a ticket to the show, vice
Right.
versa. And I think those are creative ways to do it without a doubt. And I know several artists that it's not obvious at all, but they've had like their music videos and tours and things underwritten by, you know, alcohol brands or whoever to pay for the production of the video or some of the tour or whatever. I mean, the classic one has always been like the Monster tours,
Right.
you know, and those where hilariously those are all cans of water on the stage, but because nobody could drink that much Monster.
No, it was like the Red Bull stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we used to do car shows, and Red Bull was a big sponsor always.
of course. Yeah.
But nobody liked the product.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, you know, take the advantage of that. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west again. Start thinking out of the box. Find different ways to do it. And
As a business guy, I love it. Like I struggle with it being as a creative in music, trying to find a way to make money with music. But
Right.
that's why I built the studio, because I found my spot in it. So, you know, but at the same time, like being in the Wild Wild West with the Dolby stuff, you know, there's nobody that's been solidified as the number one way to do Dolby or the number one guy in Dolby yet. Like it's still Wild Wild West. You still do it how you feel right now and
Right.
put it up, you know, and see what works. So there's a lot of gaps in this market, which the gaps are where money's made. You just got to find a way to connect.
and that's why you come to MusiCon,
Absolutely.
to talk to other people, to network, to find out where those gaps are, how you can work together and capitalize on them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when's the next one?
October 28th through the 30th at the Jazz and Heritage Center on Rampart.
Awesome. Any big guests you want to announce yet, or?
We're holding off. We have a couple of people that we're talking to right now. You know, I don't know when we'll announce all those, but
Yeah,
there's some good ones. We always have some. We had Todd Rundgren last year, Dougie Fresh the year before, Don Richard. We had a lot of good people, and even outside of the music sphere, like Walter Isaacson came and talked about the history of New Orleans and how the culture has benefited from the music industry or the musicians here. So there's a lot of interesting conversations from prominent guests for sure.
Right.
Every time. So
Awesome.
we'll have somebody good.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So, and anything we can do to help, here.
Absolutely.
Anything
we
I
love
can
you
do.
guys. Love the space.
Yeah,
Glad
thanks
to
for
see
having
y'all
us.
are here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thinking of us.
No, it was good having you guys. I appreciate everything.
Yeah, I love talking to you.
Do you want to plug some socials for MusiCon or?
Go ahead.
Well, you can reach us at NOLAMusiCon.com. For any questions, you can hit us up at info@NOLAMusiCon.com. I think our Instagram is NOLA MusiCon.
There you go.
Is at NOLA MusiCon.
All the usual socials.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I hope the audience and the artists do reach out because I think it's a great thing for the city. It's needed in the educational part of the music business and the music overall.
And I will say for all the artists, we do offer very steep discounts for local artists and artists everywhere, but especially if you're local. So don't be afraid. Reach out, talk to us, and we want to see you there. So we'll do everything we can to get you in the door.
Awesome. Yeah. Maybe we can do a raffle with tickets.
That'd be great.
To
absolutely.
maybe doing a free day of recording here.
Oh,
If
that'd be fun.
you buy a ticket and you're automatically in, and
there you go.
Okay,
and something to win. Maybe we could do
That'd
something like that.
Great.
Yeah, love to do it.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again. And
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today in the Elation Podcast. Please like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.